it finished Hunslet 34, Keighley 0, West Wales 12, Workington 58, Doncaster 31, Oldham 0, North Wales 12, Newcastle 48, Whitehaven 32, Coventry 18.
Yeah, we were following this one by text in the car coming back, and I was getting quite hopeful because Coventry actually leading 14-4 at half time, and
Okay.
I was quite encouraged, thinking this is good.
Mm.
This could be quite an upset, but
Yeah, big result if you'd got it.
yeah, coming from the in the second half, Whitehaven really eased on and came out pretty quickly and scored two tries straight after the break, which really did for it, and then just eased through, and then Coventry just pinching one more try from Elliot Hall right at the end, unfortunately. But we shall see them very shortly when we play them in the return fixture. In terms of the standings, Whitehaven are top on 17 points. Hunslet, Scholars, Oldham, Newcastle and Doncaster making up the playoff positions as it stands. We also had some other games in the AB Sundex 1895 Cup.
It just flows off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so it finished Barrow 50, Bradford 6.
Yes, this one
Um,
was played on Wednesday night on the Our League app, and Carsten got in touch to say the Bulls just sent an academy reserve grade team, but they were very competitive in the first half. The second half was just a Raiders show where their experience started to show. So Bradford showed how to get kicked out of two cup competitions in 3 days. Hashtag more sport, less talk. Yeah, I watched a little bit of this one. I watched this first half actually before I was popping out on Thursday, and yeah, the Bradford youngsters did look pretty good, and they look like there's something. They were giving 10 players debuts in this game, so it's not surprising that the result ended up as it did. And keeping them, a very experienced Barrow side to 50 is probably a pretty good result for them for what would have been a long journey that most of them wouldn't be used to.
yeah, and did you see at the end of the match, Keir sent his team out for pizza while he tidied up the changing room and took everything back to the coach?
Yeah, yet another iconic image of John Keir this season. This straight after seeing his front room, and that. So we just need like a. I feel like this could be a set. The moods of John Keir.
Yeah,
There are
at
two.
home with Keir, and you could like track him, couldn't they?
Yeah, perhaps they could even put like an app or something, or maybe it's like the next MTV documentary, like Forget Geordie Shore, have at home with the Kears or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a market for it, definitely.
Yeah, two skulls, one video camera or something like that.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, the other results in this AB Sundex 1895 Cup. No, still doesn't work. Halifax 8, Sheffield 52. So, yeah, again, the side that had played 3 days earlier in that mammoth game not be able to get over the line, which is not surprising. And it finished Widnes 22, Featherstone 16, and we did have a fan view on this one.
Yep, POB 1976 again said a good win at home for the Vikings. On to the next round and only 2 games from Wembley.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a fantastic story if they managed to do that after the season they've had.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and that means the quarter-final draw is Widnes against Dewsbury, York against Batley, Lee versus Barrow, and Doncaster versus Sheffield. Okay, and there's just one game played in the Women's Super League this week.
Yep, Bradford 22 and Castleford 42. So another good win there for Castleford.
Yeah, really cementing their position, racing away with it this season, and certainly the changes they've made of players they brought in do look to have done well for them and bringing that team spirit they've got, because they've now got a dedicated area at the Mendahose jungle with their little room. I don't know if you saw the video on Twitter of them being unveiled and them getting into it.
No,
So
I
they've got their
didn't,
own
but that's good.
yeah, they've got their own team room,
Really positive.
which is donated by someone, a little porter cabin, but that's been really good for them.
Yeah.
And on Wednesday we had State of Origin Game 1 Down Under, where it finished Queensland 18, New South Wales 14. New South Wales being 8-0 up at half time, and we had lots of views about this one.
Yep. So first of all, Carsten got in touch and said Will Chambers and Latrell Mitchell with absolute stinkers. Queensland has two wingers which can score and win game one with their help. Cockroaches were shit from 1 to 17 and never looked like winners. Queenslander.
Yeah, Ian Gatwood said another fascinating game to watch as a non-Australian, so neither rooting for New South Wales or Queensland. Seeing some comments comparing state of origin itself is ludicrous. Rugby league is a massive sport in those states, but not as popular in the UK. Hopefully, it'll be 1-1 going into game 3.
POV 1976 said a good game to start the series. Queensland would have been kicking themselves if they hadn't won this one after the amount of times they blew chances in the first half.
Yeah, Lee Whitnell said game 1 of Origin used to be awful, but for the last 2 years they've been fucking brilliant. Queensland were on the ropes at half time, and I've got no idea where they found the second half performance. Atmosphere was amazing. I'm going to pop my non-essential organs on eBay now so I can experience a game for myself. Yeah, something I'd love to do.
Yeah, and Mark Hill watched it as well, and he said it recorded feels like a peak time for Origin. Games are played, coached, and officiated in exactly the right way. Evenly matched and fairly young sides, both play with lots of skill and speed, but with little fear. Right winner on the day. Queensland created more throughout and contained New South Wales well for periods after half time. Great game.
Yeah, and Tom Andrews said excellent display of what rugby league can be. Can't wait for game 2. The battle of fullbacks was fantastic.
Yep, and I went around to watch it with my dad, and he's commented to say, not sure how Queensland went in at half time behind. They created enough chances to be 20 up. Came out firing in the second period as New South Wales was stuck in their own half for most of the 40, and only really came back into it playing last chance rugby in the last few minutes.
And finally, Alan Shoddy and Mungo says, I thought New South Wales were actually the best team for the first 50 minutes with a high completion rate and scramble when needed. Just couldn't live with the Queensland intensity in the last half hour. I mean, for me, it had a very familiar tale to it. Certainly, as a New South Wales supporter, it feel you had the hope and the optimism lasting to 50, 60 minutes, and Queensland just pulling away in that final bit. It's like their side is always set up for that last 20, 30 minutes to really come on, and Gagai and Ponga, they really connected in that last bit, and they were really tearing ribbons into that New South Wales defence. Latrell and the sin binning was just ridiculous, really. He could easily, I think, have got under there and held that ball up without having to resort to the foul he did and costing that space, which then led to that try right at the end of the sin bin period. And again, New South Wales started well, but hadn't fully capitalised. I think they had another couple of chances they could have got to, and again, it just looked like it was coming from, as was talked about pre-game, looked like it was coming from the halves. They weren't quite clicking and gelling, and it was just all a bit too much for players to do. So, and it just they didn't quite get in at the end, and there was just you look at the Torovic try right at the end, and they kind of needed Travojevic to be on more of the game. I think he had quite a long spell off, certainly when the sin binning period he was off the field, and he's sort of someone who can cover quite a bit of ground, so you don't think he could quite get there without him on the field.
Yeah, I think it's the first Origin match I've ever watched, actually, and I didn't watch it live because I was having a nap. So I went round and watched it at Dad's on Friday without knowing the result, and yeah, just the intensity it's played at and the speed. I think was it something like 11 and a half minutes before there was any pause in play, and 17 minutes before there was a penalty. Yeah, it was a really good match to watch, and as somebody said, the way it was officiated. I loved the speed at which the video refs came back with their calls and things like that, and their explanations. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean the bunker system I think works really well when you've got the resources to do it. It's excellent, and because they can just look at it in that quick time, and the emphasis is on getting a quick decision and getting the ball moving. They're not worrying about being 100% right. They're just kind of just worried about getting the decision made. The speed of the play, yeah, because the NRL is a gear to a gear and a half up from the best Super League game, and then Origin is probably another 2 gears on top of that. and
Yeah.
just the intensity, but also the refereeing as well. The refereeing is very much at getting the ball moving, keeping it going, and keeping the battle in the field. It's not about stopping it and breaking it down. They will penalise the things that need penalising, but the idea is that the game carries on, and it's very much a refereeing directive that you can feel that they are aimed at keeping that ball moving, because they've got that two referee system, and it is the best two referees they've got. They're
I
able
thought
to do
Ashley
that.
Klein had a great game.
Yeah, I mean, I've rated him for a long time as a referee. I think he's probably the best referees we've seen in quite, certainly in my watching career. He's probably one of the best.
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
so that sets the series up well for game two of bringing it back onto. I think, is it Perth and then Sydney, or Sydney then Perth? I'm not sure.
It's the neutral venue next, isn't it? Which seems a
Perth,
strange time
yes.
to have your neutral venue.
Yeah, I suppose it stops it being a blowout if game three was to be a not required, or not required, but a dead rubber, because the series had already been won. It makes sure that they get the ticket sales, because it's always going to be needed for the
I
result. So
suppose.
that's probably where they come from in having that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it's like out at Perth.
Yeah.
So we still had some NRL games to carry on with while that was going on as well, and it was NRL round 13 where it finished Sydney Rabbitohs 12, South Sydney Rabbitohs 12, the Knights 20. Tom running for 144 metres, Sam Burgess at one try, 109 metres, and George also ran. It's the West Tigers 0, Canberra Raiders 28. Sutton making 46 tackles and running for 163 metres. John Bateman making one try at 124 metres, and Elliot Whitehead with a try assist. I don't know if you saw the video on social media, but John Bateman also having a little kicking competition and giving his boots away to a young fan at the end as well,
Oh,
which
no, I
was
didn't see that.
lovely to see. And we got a fan view on this one from Mark Ill again.
Yep, he said, looking at the stands, I think a lot of Titans fans have become Tigers fans, but forget that. These English boys at Canberra have some footy skills. Is it bias on my part, or is Sutton working his way into the Great Britain conversation? Outstanding performance.
I think you've got to look at him, because consistent performer in that cauldron at the NRL. I think he's definitely someone who you've got to be talking about in that breath. Elsewhere, it was Warriors 10, Storm 32, Sharks 42, Eels 22, and the Cowboys of North Queensland 20, Manly Sea Eagles 22. And that wraps up everything for the other results section this week. And now it's time to do the prediction section and look ahead to Super League round 18. And we start off on this Thursday evening. So we're back on Thursdays, 7:45 on Sky, down at the Mend Your Hose Jungle, where it's Castleford against Hull FC. How are you calling this one?
Yep, well, I think it's going to rain because it always rains when we go to Castleford at the moment. And Rob will arrange to meet us somewhere, and then he won't turn up, so we'll stand and get wet waiting for him, because that always happens as well. But other than that, I think we're going to win, but it's going to be by a drop goal, so I've gone 24-25.
I'm thinking, just on the basis of home field advantage, I'm thinking Castleford will sneak this one, but I think that they've probably got a little bit more join up in attack, and probably will have a bit of confidence coming off last week and the way they won, but I think it could well be a close game. Moving on, Friday 7:45, the Sky game. It's Leeds against Wigan.
Yeah, tough one to call. One of these relegation battles, isn't it?
It
Really.
is, yeah, down the lower end of the table.
Yeah, yeah. Normally we're talking about those two up at the top. So it was more who's going to lose rather than who's going to win. I've gone for Leeds to win, just on the back of their win last week, thinking that they might kick on a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone similar methodology, but I've gone the other way. I've gone the sneaking the drop goal and getting over the line last week, giving them the confidence. I've gone for Wigan to take this one.
Yeah, it's one of those